When we talk about horror movie directors, we think about John Carpenter, Tobe Hooper, Wes Craven, on and on, a few other names, but what about Rob Zombie? Today's episode, we're going to deep dive into the controversial filmmaker's career and rank all 9 of his movies. Love him or hate him, let's talk about Rob Zombie. How's it going, everyone? Thank you for tuning in to another episode here at Figure Out Films. I'm your host, as always, Chris, and today we are talking about one of my favorite and one of the most controversial horror movie directors working today. We're talking Rob Zombie. If you are new to this channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button and help us get to that road of 1K. We're trying to get there before the end of this year. I love seeing all the engagement in our previous video, which is a rank where I ranked the top 10 best zombie movies. I like to thank my current subscribers to help support and all the newcomers here. Let's keep this train going. Let's go ahead and get going to the 1,000, especially in the spooky holy month of October. We have one more video coming out at the end of this month, so make sure you hit that subscribe and get that notification bell so then you're not missing anything here at this channel. Let's tackle the subject at hand, which we're talking about Rob Zombie. For those who don't know who Rob Zombie is, Rob Zombie was formerly he still is an active rock star. He did a lot of psychedelic, hardcore, heavy metal, rock music with the band White Zombie. But then he moved on gradually to filmmaking. And the great thing about Rob Zombie is he has always been honest and open and has a history of loving horror movies. Some of the classics of Universal Monsters and then the 1970s grindhouse horror and on. It was only a matter of time, if you followed his career and his music, that this guy loves horror movies and he's gonna make some. And in 2003, he ended up doing that with his initial film, his debut, House of a Thousand Corpses. Now, from there, that's where a lot of the divide happens, straight out of the gate for Rob Zombie, with homage to Tobe Hooper and other such things, and the visceral violence of the time that movie came out, and the homage to early horror movies, and also just being inventive and creative in the horror field in a relatively weak decade as well. Rob Zombie was a breath of fresh air, and that's also when the controversy started, when he eventually got the nod to do a remake of John Carpenter's Halloween. And that's kind of where we are today, where Rob Zombie is this cult following director who does such interesting and creative works, and as someone here is a big fan of Rob Zombie, I love to always see what his next project's going to be. And for other people, he's just not their cup of tea. He's just not it for them. It's too violent. The scripts aren't good. They don't like his wife. There's so many things that go into the Rob Zombie hate that I honestly cannot fathom and understand, but you know what? To each their own. And I figured today, because it's the last week of Halloween and he is one of my favorite directors ever, that I wanted to do a ranking of Rob Zombie's movies. And what time better than now in the final week of October? I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. What are your thoughts on Rob Zombie? Where do you rank his movies? Have you seen all 9 of his films? I'd like to hear down in the comments below. But let's go ahead and go again with my list. So starting out at number 9, my least favorite and my most recent watch of Rob Zombie's movie. This came out in 2016. That is Rob Zombie's 31. Now, 31 is a movie about it takes place in the 1970s, and it's a carnival gang that are traveling on this dirt road in the desert, and it takes place on Halloween night. Hence why it's called 31. It stars Sherry Moon Zombie, Jeff Daniel Phillips, and others. Actually, Meg Foster as well is in this in a great role. They actually stumble upon a trap in the desert that turns out that they all thought was going to be a Halloween prank, and it turns out that it's a bunch of rich aristocrats led by Malcolm McDowell. Yes, Caligula himself and Rob Zombie Reg almost. They decide to hire maniacs and trap these people in this warehouse where they have to survive multiple obstacles of killers and progress through the whole 12 hours of night to be able to be released. It's kind of crazy when you think about it, that, you know, this is a 1970s like grindhouse homage film. This feels like the Funhouse in some respects from Tobe Hooper, while also just being a grindhouse classic. homage. Just think about some of the greatest hits of 1970s slasher movies. You get an amazing opening with this movie with Richard Brake, and if you don't know who Richard Brake is, you need to learn. He's one of the best working actors today. He can just turn a switch when it comes to the camera and his acting prowess. He can just make you so chilled, and he can make you so terrified on screen. The way he looks, the way he delivers lines it's so deliciously evil. It's a very interesting movie. It's very unique. Like I said, it's homage to a lot of things, but at the same time, it's very original in its concept and delivery from Rob Zombie. However, I will say it is a little weak in the narrative. This is Rob Zombie's weakest directed movie. He really just shook the cam often. He just could not focus on a shot. It was very hard to follow what the actual acts were going on. And, for this being my least favorite Rob Zombie, it's not terrible. It's actually pretty interesting, and I look forward to rewatching this in the future. But as of right now, unfortunately, this is my least favorite Rob Zombie movie. 31. Coming in at number 8 is another recent release from Rob Zombie. This came out in 2019, and it's a little unfortunate because it's the wrap-up of the trilogy that I absolutely love. It's one of the best trilogies, I think, in cinema. That is the Firefly trilogy, and the last one in the installment of the trilogy, 3 from Hell. Now, the nice thing is this is a 4K release of 3 from Hell, the only 4K from Rob Zombie. Don't know quite why, I think due to studios. However, this is the last film. If you have not seen the Firefly trilogy, basically the movie starts with House of a Thousand Corpses from 2003, and then it moves on to The Devil's Rejects in 2005, and then ultimately in 2019, that long hiatus, we come to 3 from Hell. The problem with the third film in this trilogy is that the actor's a little older. It feels like it took way too long. At the ending of The Devil's Rejects was a pretty great ending, and it could have wrapped up the back-to-back films. However, with this one, it kind of makes things a little confusing. I will say the unfortunate passing of Sid Haig in this movie, who plays the iconic clown Captain Spaulding. Due to his age, he did pass away as soon as this filmmaking, near the end of filmmaking here. So he wasn't in much of this movie, which is really unfortunate because he is a vital piece to this trilogy. But you do get Richard Brake again in this role. But Bill Moseley returns, and Sherry Moon Zombie becomes his baby, and Otis Driftwood. But 3 from Hell. So why is it so low? I think it's the weakest narrative film. However, I do like the places it goes. So basically, Otis and Sherry and Captain Spaulding. There's protests who are calling for the release of the Fireflies because of them going against the man and the police and things like that. And they end up escaping prison in a very gruesome fashion. It has Jeff Daniel Phillips as the police officer, who we saw in 31 as a main character as well. Come back rocking a real cool 70s stash look. It's kind of fun. But this movie feels like it's trying to create greatest hits from the previous 2 movies in this trilogy. And it just doesn't make sense. It just comes out a little too late. They're just escaping. They're trying to get away from the law. They're trying to make it to Mexico. By the time they get to Mexico, they run into a cartel and they have a shootout there. And it's a little this used to be a backwoods, off the dirt path family of freaks and carnies, and now they're gun-ho in the cartel. It just feels out of place. And I kind of respect Rob Zombie trying to go in a different direction with this movie, but it ultimately just doesn't play very well, which is unfortunate. But I still think this is a very enjoyable movie, and I recommend that people check it out, but it is at my number 8 slot. Coming in at number 7, I think is a movie people forget that Rob Zombie did. That is The Haunted World of El Superbeasto from 2009. This is Rob Zombie's animated film starring Tom Papa. It has some of the favorites, Sherry Moon Zombie in it, Rosario Dawson, Paul Giamatti, Brian Poston. It has Bill Moseley. It also has Sid Haig and others as well. This is an animated movie where our protagonist El Superbeasto is a retired wrestling turned actor, which is kind of funny, and it's just a comedy beat movie. It's got a lot of homages to The Shining and other Universal monsters and other creature feature movies in animated fashion here. This is just like a hangout movie that basically is Paul Giamatti's devil is trying to marry Rosario Dawson, Velvet Von Black, and become the devil basically because he was bullied all his life. And Sherry Moon Zombie plays Susie X, which is Superbeasto's sister, where she's like a secret 007 agent who has a horny robot that helps her out. And when I mean horny, he is horny. It's just a crazy movie. I know this is not for everyone, but it's got Nazi zombies. It's got, like animated depictions of other Universal monsters and such. It's got a great Frankenstein opening as well. Yeah, I love the music in this movie. I love Tom Papa as El Superbeasto. It's very crude. It's very juvenile humor, but I just absolutely enjoy it. This is a staple of mine. When I was younger, which is kind of scary that when you think about it. But I still ultimately love El Superbeasto. Not for everyone, only for the true Rob Zombie fans, I would say, at number 7. Coming at number 6 is where it started off for my man Rob, and that is House of a Thousand Corpses from 2003. One of the most iconic covers, I feel like, in the 2000s for horror movies. I feel like this movie is not as bad as people in 2003 said it is, and even after, I feel like the reputation does not precede this movie. I feel like this movie, people say, Thousand Corpses, this movie's gory, it's graphic, and all this other shit. And honestly, it's not that bad. It's relatively tame in that respect. This is a rated R movie. I mean, it's not unrated. It's not rated X. It's nothing crazy like that. But you would think, based on reputation reviews, that this was one of those kind of movies. But this is where it starts with a Firefly trilogy. I mean, Bill Moseley acts his ass off as Otis in this movie. Just the character of Otis Driftwood is just absolutely insane. Sherry Moon Zombie as Baby in this movie, I think is really great and enjoyable. Her iconic laugh and giggles in her debut film here, I think steals the show. But, I mean, the best part about this movie is going to be Sid Haig's Captain Spaulding. Just so iconic. Such great, memorable scenes that are awesome opening. I think some of the best music from Rob Zombie's movies are in House of a Thousand Corpses. A lot of cool, hard rock music in here. It feels like Dracula Living Dead Girl as a movie is this film here. Rainn Wilson, yes, Dwight Schrute from The Office in this movie. Him and his friends are going off the beaten path to kind of find all your favorite roadside attractions and write a book about it. And they want to find the legend of Dr. Satan in this movie. So Captain Spaulding shows the legend off to them, and they run into Otis, to the Driftwood family, and from there, hell breaks loose. This movie is awesome. I absolutely enjoy this movie. The dialogue is only Rob Zombie could write it. Is so awesome in this movie. So I can just quote this movie all the time. It's just an homage to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre from Tobe Hooper, 100% here. But this is a good time. I think it gets better on rewatch for me. However, it's a little. I feel like it leaves a lot on the table. But I feel like as a debut movie, this is still a strong showing. But I feel like it could have done better if he did other movies before this. Because it's a little bare bones in some aspects. So I have to put it the number 6 slot for me as he gets more polished as a director. But for a first film at number 6, I think this is a great film. What are your thoughts on House of a Thousand Corpses? Do you remember watching this movie? Do you remember that iconic DVD menu with Sid Haig saying he's going to put a boot up your ass? Love that stuff. Anyway, House of a Thousand Corpses at number 6. Coming in at number 5. So the reason I have this here is because I want to give a PSA that the theatrical version is the one you have to watch for this movie. And at number 5, I got to put down Halloween 1. Halloween from 2007 right here, baby. I feel like this is the movie that really pissed people off and where that line divides with people who love Rob Zombie and people who just want to shit on all his work because it's Rob Zombie. It stems, I feel like, from Halloween 2007. And I have here the theatrical cut with the double pack. You gotta watch the theatrical cut. I feel like this is a Canadian version, but the American version is always the unrated for some reason. The theatrical is better. I repeat, the theatrical is better. I think it omits some unnecessary scenes. It's a more tightly ran movie. I love this Rob Zombie interpretation of Halloween because it's so damn different. And Rob Zombie realized, if I'm going to remake Halloween, I'm going to make it my own. I'm not going to give everyone 78's John Carpenter's Halloween, because you might as well just rewatch that. And it's a perfect movie, basically. So, like, why try to do that? Why do what Gus Van Stink did and did his Psycho remake? Why not make my own Halloween? I mean, he uses the same mask, I believe, and just beats it to hell. We get a true origin story of Michael Myers in this movie as well, and only Rob Zombie's vision could do. I think this is a great, hard-hitting slasher movie. When we think about things like Friday the 13th remake, the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, I'm talking Halloween. I think Halloween is the strongest from those, and it was the first one of those remakes to come out. Well, technically, Texas Chainsaw Massacre did in the early 2000s as well. From that vein, I feel like Halloween is that, and it's like kind of intensity, but I think its structure and narrative is a lot stronger and a lot better. I just absolutely love seeing a young Michael. I love seeing Scout Taylor Compton in this role of Laurie Strode. It's a different take on Laurie, and I absolutely enjoy it. This movie is really great. I wasn't the biggest fan for a while, but it started to grow on me more and more as I watched it. And on my most recent watch, yeah, this movie rocks, and that's why it's at number 5. Coming in at number 4 is The Lords of Salem. So The Lords of Salem, I would argue, is maybe his like best work. This is like an A24 witch movie right here. The Lords of Salem is badass. This movie came out in 2012, ahead of its time, honestly. And I think this movie is going to be the best aged film for him. Because it's so damn good. So Sherry Moon Zombie, again, stars in this movie. Sherry Moon Zombie is his wife, and she stars in every movie he does. And I think that's truly an awesome thing, and it speaks volumes to their relationship. I think that's so good. I know people dog on that, but my God, she's not that bad of an actress as people do. I think it's just an easy thing to hate on and criticize. But I think this is one of her best roles right here. As Heidi, the DJ, I think that's what we call radio disc jockeys, right? So she's a DJ here, and they live in actual Salem, Massachusetts, and they get an ominous CD, an ominous track from a band called The Lords, and it just woodland music. It's, you know, it feels like something like Scandinavian, and it actually infuses some sort of trigger response from Heidi, who's dealing with being a recovered drug addict. And you really want to root for Heidi, honestly. But this music just puts her in a trance, and then she starts hallucinating throughout this movie. And you mix in the idea that she's actually in Salem. She thinks there's a covenant in Salem still, and the Lord's music, while they're playing it through the waves, is affecting women, including Heidi. And the reason this movie, I would say, is his best is because it tackles things like witchcraft, Lovecraftian, supernatural things as well. This feels like almost like a Rosemary's Baby as well, mixed in with like, I don't know, like a possession, maybe? I don't know how to quite describe it. It's quite the movie, and it has one of the most jaw-dropping, surreal third acts and conclusions I've seen in a movie, let alone a Rob Zombie movie. He really directs his ass off in this movie, creating a very brooding atmosphere, while also giving a glimpse of hopefulness for our character, Heidi. You really do want to root for Sherry Moon Zombie in this movie, and I think this is one of her best performances, honestly. And just the infusing of the metal music, and you think about his Rob Zombie's background in this, you really enjoy and believe the storytelling of this movie. The Covenant witches. I mean, this, like, again, you could even throw in Suspiria as like some sort of inspiration for this movie. Not as colorful, because this movie is dark, but yeah, The Lords of Salem, if I haven't intrigued you enough, just watch this damn movie. This is a great, technically well-made film, and it's one of Rob Zombie's best, honestly. But I do have it the number 4 slot because I think personality takes place for the others. But at number 4, The Lords of Salem. Coming in at number 3, just slightly notches off Lords of Salem for me. That is 2009. So Rob Zombie directed in 2009 The Haunted World of El Superbeasto, and he released this masterclass in Halloween 2. Halloween 2 from 2009. I have it here in a double pack. This one I'm okay with watching the unrated cut for, but absolutely could watch the theatrical. It's no problem too. But I kind of like the unrated cut just a little bit more in Halloween 2, which is more the easily accessible version, I would say, of Halloween 2. So why I like it. why is it at number 3? This one I feel like is the one that people hate even more than the first. Not only is the first one just a completely different retelling of the original, I think Halloween 2 kind of follows in the same vein the original Halloween 2, where we continue that original story. But and the different thing that Rob Zombie does is he doesn't try and tackle more of from the night he came home like the original Halloween 2, which I still absolutely love. But what he tries to do is explain more the origin, the mindset, and the concept of Michael Myers and his family as well. This feels like a very artistic approach to the Halloween Michael Myers mythos. And any of the other Halloween movies that have been made, none can touch or even be compared similar to Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, where we truly see the POV of Michael Myers trying to get back to Haddonfield, to Laurie Strode. And it also deals with the trauma that Laurie had to deal with from the first movie, which is something we really don't talk about enough, or it gets glossed over a lot in other installments of this franchise, regardless of the timeline. But in this movie, Halloween 2, it really, really does capture it. And like, how does life move on after this traumatic event? This is more of an art house take of a slasher than just a slasher movie. And I think people were not expecting that. And I don't think the studios were either. But I have to applaud the brave take on it. I know he knew that this was his last chance of doing another movie, so why not put it out something that I want to do than like appease the crowds like something like Disney would do. I respect the man for it, and honestly, I think he gave a movie that ages so well and is so different and honestly well crafted, and I think has a better ending to Michael Myers, the character, than even like the new trilogy that we got from David Gordon Green. I think Halloween 2 is slept on. I think it's so vastly different, but so interesting, and it still has the Rob Zombie violence in it, don't get me wrong. Halloween 2 is a movie that I think is so criminally underrated, and I see a lot of people turning around on this movie and giving it its flowers, which is nice to see. This is one of his strong written films. This is a really good script here, so Halloween 2. Coming in at number 2 was my former number 1 for the longest time. On rewatch, I had to put the two heavyweights together, and I kind of made up my mind. It may change in the future, but for right now, I feel confident in saying at number 2 is the 2005 follow-up to House of a Thousand Corpses, The Devil's Rejects. This is one of Rob Zombie's most unhinged, one of his angriest made movies. This is such a violent trip of a film. This is just absolutely violent, angry, obscene, upsetting films that he's made, and honestly, I applaud him. I don't know how you make, you follow up House of a Thousand Corpses with this, because this is honed in Rob Zombie. This is focused in on Otis Driftwood Baby and Captain Spaulding, just trying to escape the law while being chased by a police officer who's hell-bent on getting them captured dead or alive and pushing the lines of the law. The Devil's Rejects is just absolutely that. This is just like Rob Zombie's like, I paid my homage at House, and now I'm going to kind of do my own thing in this one. And boy, does he deliver. He gets so many upsetting scenes that honestly feel like a work of art. It's so surprising to see some of the things he comes up with in this movie. The way he can tightly focus the camera on such nerve-wracking scenes where you know something bad's going to happen. You don't know when it does. And when it does, it keeps your jaw on the floor and your eyes on the screen. It's truly a masterclass in tension in this movie. I think Bill Moseley delivers one of the scariest performances of a character on screen. We talk about Javier Bardem in No Country for Old Men. I would throw Bill Moseley's Otis from The Devil's Rejects up there and compare the two, and I might go Bill Moseley. It just, when he delivers, I am the devil, and I'm here to do the devil's work. Absolutely chilling. I also love the relationship with Sid Haig, who takes more of a backseat role as Captain Spaulding in this movie, but still hilarious. And honestly, you get him a little bit more violent in this movie as well. The Devil's Rejects is just I don't know, what can't be said about this movie? I feel like this movie just absolutely catapulted Rob a lot more than House did, and got him that job for Halloween. So it used to be my number 1 for the longest time, and it's still an amazing movie. I mean, this is truly a masterclass in horror movie making, and I gotta put it at number 2 though, because the number 1 just, damn, it's so good. Let's go on. At number 1 is his most recent release from 2022, The Munsters. Now, before you start getting at my head and things like that, I don't know why people were pissed that he was doing The Munsters. I have no relation to the original Munsters show. I am aware of its existence. I watched a couple episodes, but I had no love for it. I had no, attachment to it. So when Rob Zombie was making the Munsters and it was a PG movie, I was kind of like, what the hell? I gotta see this. And when I did not think I would be getting one of the most visually appealing, eye candy kind of movies where there's so much great color, great costume and set design in this movie. And Jeff Daniel Phillips is one of the just a joy as Herman Munster. Sharon Moon Zombie once again as Lily Munster, and for me, who steals the show, Daniel Roebuck as the Count, who always is saying that bozo Herman Munster. I just absolutely love this. Great music, great, like I said, great set design. This movie just is a true love letter to Universal monsters of old, and I love it because Rob Zombie is such a fan of that stuff. And he just delivers it so well. It doesn't try to be like a recreation of the entire show. This feels like an origin movie of some kind, and it's easily one of the most rewatchable films in his catalog. And I think this movie just gets a little too much hate because this is a good time. I think people just need to get off the guy's back and let him do his thing because he makes some creative stuff here with the Munsters. I mean, so basically what this movie is Herman Munster is created in a lab, and he's a Frankenstein monster recreation, and he starts to, need some companionship, and he runs into Lily, who is the Count's daughter, and they fall in love and get married. We follow their life of being married and trying to start a life with each other. Very simple, easy story. I can't give this movie enough of praise. It's so simplistic, yet it's so cute. For lack of a better word. I absolutely love this movie. What are your thoughts on the Munsters? Did you hate this movie? Why? I gotta know down in the comments below. And that is it. That is my entire ranking of Rob Zombie's filmography. What are your thoughts down in the comments below? What would be your ranking of Rob Zombie? Have I inspired you to check out his filmography? You got 1 week left to do it in October, so I hope you go ahead and check some of these movies out. Thanks again for all the support, and I love to see more comments down below, and I love seeing these new faces. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so we can get this channel growing to that 1,000 mark before the end of this year. Happy Halloween, everyone. And remember, if you are not watching Rob Zombie movies in October, do you really care about cinema? Other than that, I'll see you next time.